Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are waking up and feeling good out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great weekend out there so far. There is a lot to talk about in this morning's video. And the first thing we'll start off with is an update on the tropics. Tropical Storm Chantal made landfall early this morning as a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. I think the original peak intensity was just a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm, bumped up to a 45, then a 50, and then we ended up getting a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. And this happens quite often every single hurricane season, honestly, and just tapped into some of that Gulf moisture and was able to gain some steam as it was approaching landfall. So this system was definitely no different in regards to that, but we'll speak on it. What about the impacts over the next 24, 48 hours? Pretty much the rest of the life of this system. We'll speak on all that, get very detailed, obviously speak on current conditions. And then we'll move past this storm system and speak on today's weather. We do run a risk of strong to severe thunderstorms for areas of the middle of the country. So we'll zoom into those states. And then we'll speak on the severe and flooding risk outlook days to come. And then we'll end the video there. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. And we are praying heavily over the situation in Texas with the devastating flooding situation that happened over the last few days. And I'm going to have a little segment on that for Texas just because more rain is expected in some of those areas that were devastated over the last few days. So we'll speak on it, but praying, man, just the loss of life, and it continues to rise. People are still missing in and around the town of Kerrville, Texas. Just an awful situation. So we're definitely praying, but yeah, with that being said, let's get rocking and rolling. So this is what's left over of Tropical Storm Chantal. The center of it's right around the North Carolina, South Carolina border, the heaviest convection north of that area. But I believe the actual center of this system is probably right into here. But I mean, at this point, the center of it really doesn't matter. It's really where the heaviest activity is, and that is kind of right in this region. But I will show you what the radar looks like here in a second. But made landfall a few hours back, several hours back, something like that, around Georgetown, South Carolina, the coastal areas around that region. But we're going to watch for a flash flooding threat today, some gusty winds, a tornado risk. So we're going to get heavy on the details with that. But I just want to show you what it looks like right now. It's obviously weakening. It's over land. So this thing will gradually weaken back into a depression over the next several hours if it's not one. On the 8 a.m. update here in the next 45 minutes. So yeah, but moving past this, let's look at the radar. I mean, it looks like a tropical system. Let's stop this and get it back going again. Sometimes if you don't show this radar enough attention, it'll start glitching out. But here we go. So you can quite literally see the spin along the South Carolina, North Carolina state line here. So we got some action still spinning around back here in northeastern and really eastern sections of South Carolina. And we got a big plume of moisture getting thrown up across southeastern areas of North Carolina. We're going to watch this as it continues to kind of do this number and then go like that over the next 24 hours. But the thing I'm a little concerned about for today for the tornado risk is you see these. Well, you see this area right here that I'm kind of moving my cursor around. This is where we'll have a 2% risk of a tornado. I know that doesn't seem very high, but I could see some spin-ups happening. I could see them upgrading it to a 5% risk in the next update or two per the Storm Prediction Center. But these banding features you see right here, these can produce quick spin-ups. This is the dirty side of this system, and even weaker tropical systems produce tornadoes. So it doesn't matter if it's the east or northeast quadrant of a hurricane or just a tropical depression, they can still produce tornadoes. So just better wind profiles and a better moisture. Of course, you got the southerly flow. You can see it going south to north. So this is yanking up deeper tropical moisture. On this side, you're kind of getting the wraparound flow. So a flow coming more so in from the north to the south. So this is actually bringing in what dry air there is in the atmosphere. And that's why, if you're wondering in the Central Carolinas, Western Carolinas, why if you've noticed, the humidity hasn't really been that bad. I mean, we had dew points drop all the way to the low 60s here in my neck of the woods. this is actually being helped by Chantal, a little bit of back end flow, pulling in some drier air from the north. But this is it right here. I mean, looks the part of a tropical storm. So moving past this, and we will show you a future radar here in a second. This is the latest advisory from 5 a.m. Of course, they will have an 8 a.m. advisory here shortly, and it'll probably drop this to a 45, 40 mile per hour tropical storm. It might even be a tropical depression at that point. But I mean, it's over land now. It's weakening. Like I said, made landfall around Georgetown, South Carolina. And we're going to continue to get those brief tropical storm force winds, 35 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts. But the center of the system will drift this way and then up into, through areas of North Carolina, up into Virginia. And eventually, whatever's left over it will probably scoot on back out to sea. But we'll still continue to deal with some rains from this over the next few days for sure. But moving north-northwest at 8 miles per hour, so still ticking a little west, but it will eventually move north, then northeast over the next 24, 48 hours. So this is the cone. It's really shrunk. There ain't going to be much of a cone left here in the next few updates. But moving forward here, let's look at what the radar is showing. We'll take a look at the HER model, and we'll start off around right now. It's actually 8 a.m. So you can see the leftovers of the system moving out of South Carolina into North Carolina. So we take this to about lunchtime, 12 p.m. The center of the system kind of right here between Wilmington, Fayetteville, Florence, right here at the bottom of your screen. We're starting to get some of those banding features up to Raleigh, Greenville, through Jacksonville. All these bands of rain and storms could produce a quick spin up. Am I talking about a tornado outbreak? No, we're not likely going to see anything like that, but they could produce some tornadoes. But as we move to about mid-afternoon, it's around 3 p.m., where does this rain shield sort of stop? Some models have it getting to Charlotte, some don't. This particular model run does not. Does get some rain into Greensboro, Danville, but it will throw some cloud cover, for like the Piedmont of North Carolina down to the Midlands of South Carolina. So it'll stay kind of a cloudy day in these areas, some breezy winds. Honestly, a nice break from the heat before it heats up big time across these areas tomorrow. But once again, it's around 3 p.m. You see just these kind of, splashes of color here. The yellows, the reds up here, down here. This is what we could have. Just some tropical bandings of rain. And these could produce some quick spin ups here. And then we take it about 6 p.m. around dinner time. This thing is just very slowly moving north. So we're still getting very heavy rains. I mean, kind of an area between Charlotte up to Greensboro to Raleigh down to Fayetteville, down to Wadesboro. Kind of the meat of the system, whatever's left over Chantal is right into here. And this could still be producing some gusty winds, 30, 35, 40 mile per hour wind gust occasionally. Will we continue to have widespread bands of showers and storms in this area? By 6 p.m. it shows not a whole lot. And then we start to get to about 10 p.m. and whatever's left over the meat of the system is kind of between Greensboro and Raleigh. And then this will eventually kind of spin its way by the time we get into tomorrow morning all the way up into Virginia. And there ain't a whole lot left over of it by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon across areas of the Tidewater to Delmarva. We'll see what it's working with by then. But, that's kind of what it looks like today. We just have to watch. I mean, just be mindful, even as let's back it up here. Let's talk about this for about one more minute or so. Around mid-late afternoon, just if you live in central North Carolina, this thing is going to produce some gusty winds, some heavy rain, a quick few inches of rain. I know it doesn't look like a whole lot like off this, but I'm telling you, if you live in this area of North Carolina, it could pack a little bit of a punch today. Is it like destructive conditions? Absolutely not, but you'll know there's something tropical over your head for sure. But as far as some of the outlooks, there's that tornado risk I'm talking about. If you live in this green area, it does include a very small section of South Carolina, but most of this is North Carolina. If you live in this green area, we have a 2% risk of a tornado, and they might update a part of this to a 5% risk. But as of now, I like the idea of a 2% risk in those green areas. So Fayetteville, watch out even up to Raleigh, even though you're not in the green area, but all the Outer Banks, just about Wilmington, Greenville, these areas. And then there's a risk of flash flooding. If you live in this yellow area, that's where you have a 15% risk flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles in a given location. Of course, speaking of the flash flooding and how much rain could fall, this is how much that is forecast. Let's see if there's any new information with this. This is between now and 8 p.m. Tuesday. So a lot of this rain's falling right now on like Florence and or is to come. But grand total of around 2.5 inches in Florence, around 2 inches in Fayetteville. There it is, Charlotte to Columbia. I mean, Rock Hill, kind of the Interstate 77 corridor. You're literally right on the gradient here. You work your way about an hour, say east, you get an inch, 2 inches of rain. You go west, you get hardly nothing, if anything at all. But Greensboro going for about 1.5 inches, Raleigh around 1 inch of rain, kind of the eastern sections of North Carolina around 1 inch. But there's that corridor right here where whatever's left over sort of the core of Chantal will work through. So this is where in these red areas you could get over 2.5 inches of rain pretty fast today. So just be watching out for a quick flash flooding scenario that could develop really quick. Nothing, you're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna get 6, 7, 8 inches of rain, but you could get easily a few inches. So, but looking at the wind gust, we'll take a look at South Carolina and North Carolina. This is around 10 a.m. We're still getting some breezy conditions. I mean, even some 20, 25 mile per hour wind gusts to Columbia up to Rock Hill, even some breezy conditions all the way over to Greensville. In Augusta, a little bit of a tight wind gradient in place, but some breezy conditions will remain in Myrtle Beach. This is Florence. You can actually see the middle of the system right here with just kind of an area that's void of wind. And then we start to get to, say, this is lunchtime. We start to get into 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and it just really shows how slow this system is. There's not a lot of pull in the atmosphere. So this is around 5 p.m. We still got some gusty winds up in the PD of South Carolina. We got some stronger wind gusts in eastern North Carolina, which we'll show you here in a second. And then we start to get into the evening hours and things begin to simmer down after that. But then taking a look at North Carolina and Virginia. So as the, whatever's left over the core of the system begins to move into North Carolina, we are going to have some breezy conditions. There it is. I put my cursor over kind of these purple and pink areas. That's where we could have 35, 40 mile per hour wind gusts. So like I said, like between Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, Fayetteville, this area right in here, I mean, I really do think you're going to get a period, some on-off periods today where you're going to get tropical storm force condition winds, 40, 45 mile per hour wind gusts. It's possible. It's just very isolated. You're not going to get sustained winds. And just breezy conditions all day across eastern North Carolina, eventually getting into southeast Virginia. This is 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It's just going to be a breezy evening across central and really eastern North Carolina. Eventually, some of these gusty winds tomorrow morning will make their way across eastern North Carolina. Now, sometimes the HRRR model can overdo this some, so you might only get just some 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts in any of these areas, but just be aware of that. But that's an update on the tropics, guys. By the time we get into tomorrow morning, we won't be speaking as much on this anymore, but yeah, we'll have to watch for whatever's next after this. But as far as today's weather, we've already talked about the southeast and what's going on with the remnants of tropical storm Chantal. We got some flow up here in Canada. We got some rains up here in the Great Lakes region. Northern areas of Maine getting some rain, but not a ton. And then we got a big area of rain here in western areas, the western half of South Dakota. A little bit of rain up here in North Dakota. Some flow across the high plains also. And unfortunately, we continue to deal with these plumes of rain here across central Texas. We even have some flash flood warnings. We just need to get rid of this this pattern down here for sure. So, but we will speak a little bit on Texas here in a minute when we get to the South Central timestamp of this video. But you guys just continue to deal with rain down here. Just a stagnant pattern in place for sure. So. But watches, warnings, and advisories. Of course, you do have the flood watches in place across areas of Texas. Good chunk of basically all of central Texas, the heart of it. And then flood watches are in place across areas in North Carolina, one county in Virginia for what's going on with the tropical system. And then we got heat advisories up here in the Northeast. It continues to be hot. And then extreme heat warnings across these kind of extreme heat watches, my bad, in these Burgundy counties across areas of Southern California and Arizona. So, The Storm Prediction Center outlook for today, there's a few marginal risks. One obviously being driven off the tropical system down here in the Carolinas. One up here in Maine. Some of these storms could produce some severe weather up here in Maine. We got some severe weather up here in areas of Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan that's possible with some of these storms today. And then the Central Plains and the High Plains, there is a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather with a marginal risk stretching all the way down into western Texas, eastern New Mexico, all the way up into Wyoming and portions of South Dakota. My nose is itching all of a sudden. But anyways, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather in this region. The tornado threat is at a 2% risk, and that is covering up portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, and a very small section of Wyoming. And just taking a closer look at this region, there's where you have your 2% risk of a tornado today, and this could upgrade. We could get an upgrade from a slight to an enhanced risk in this region that happened yesterday. And then the risk of winds, yellow area, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. But in that black outline region embedded inside the yellow area, this is where we have a 10% risk of these winds reaching 70, 75, maybe even 80 miles per hour. So be aware of that. You know, the winds are going to pack a punch today. And the hail threat, a risk of significant hail. Yellow area, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger in the yellow regions. And then in the black outline area, there is a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. The risk of flash flooding, we got the slight risk in the Carolinas, but once again, we do have a 15% risk of flash flooding within 25 miles in the given location areas of Texas. And where's Kerrville? This is the area that was devastated. You're right on the cusp with that 15% risk area. But I am going to spend some time on this region here in a second. But hopefully the heaviest rain, we don't need any more rain in this area, but hopefully it stays away from this community down here in Kerrville, Texas. So, but there is a 15% risk of flash flooding in this area. Now the southeast, outside of what we've already got very detailed on the very in the beginning of the video, there's not really a whole lot else to talk about except just normal summer type weather. We get into this afternoon, man, my nose. I apologize. I keep scratching my face. But we do have some thunderstorms that are likely across areas of Florida. Maybe not as widespread as what we've seen, but we be aware of that. Just normal summer type stuff down here. It's no reason to cancel all your plans for just a 40% chance of rain. But along the Gulf coastline, points inland, some thunderstorms popping up, and just isolated activity here and there. Not a lot of flow in the atmosphere. You wouldn't expect it this time of the year. Outside of what's driven off a tropical system across the south, but just some pop-up activity, nothing too crazy. If you're wondering what this is, I had a segment on this in the very beginning of the video. The Northeast, not a whole lot except up here in Maine. If you live in northern sections of Maine, some of these storms will get to severe limits in the northern half of Maine. You see this line of storms working its way through. These will get to strong to severe limits, so be aware of that. Some gusty winds, maybe even some hail, but some thunderstorms up here. But most of New England will be quiet today. Most of your action riding north up into Ontario, Quebec, and so forth. But we're going to get some storms in Maine. Like I mentioned, just a stormy afternoon, evening. Now, I would say the southern areas in Maine, probably not as much action, but most of your flow is hitting the area of Maine that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, if you will. But then we'll get some showers that we're waking up to tomorrow morning across areas of the I-95 corridor. But yeah. And then the south central U.S. So we'll move this forward here. There's all the rain popping up as early as about midday. We do have some thunderstorm activity scattered across, northern Arkansas, Missouri. It's very possible, southeast to Kansas. But this is the area we're really watching. Okay. A lot of thunderstorm activity, blows up, doesn't move a whole lot. Drifts south. Some areas might even drift north. And we got some thunderstorm activity also in Louisiana. And we got some storms firing off the higher elevations of the Rockies and New Mexico and Colorado. But you see how all this action kind of fires up around midday? I mean, this is like 12 o'clock. Thunderstorms drifting around in Texas. So, and then we got some big time storms in western areas of Kansas. So let's go on and zoom into some of these areas. First off, let's speak on Texas. So how much rain is forecast in this area between now and about 7 p.m. Tuesday? Well, not a whole lot. I mean, you got pockets here in the purple that means we're over an inch of rain could fall. Okay, but I really think some of these areas could get more rain than this, in my opinion. Now, we will drop it down to, say, this area of Texas, and we're San Antonio. Kerrville right into here. Doesn't have it listed on this specific map here. I can't help that, guys. It's just whatever pivotal weather list. I think Kerrville's right in here, so it looks like you guys are going for around a ½ inch to an inch of rain over the next 60, 72 hours or so. So please just, I think you guys know this by now, but the community has been devastated. Many people have lost their lives, and a lot of children. It was just, it's just tough. It's tough for anybody to read that kind of stuff, but especially when you got kids, it is heartbreaking. Just envisioning some kids in a summer camp and just water sweeping them away. Just the thought of that is absolutely awful. But anyways, moving forward, please be aware of this rain today. There's a chance that it could overachieve, as far as what's forecast. But you can see this area kind of between Abilene, San Angelo, over to San Antonio. This region could get, a ½ inch to an inch and a half of rain today. Now, it might not sound like a lot, but when you have already the misery that's ongoing in the area, it's just an insult to it. So, but looking at Colorado, this is starting off around 1 p.m. local time. And you do got the storms that fire out the Front Range and drift across eastern areas of Colorado. This is 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. These storms could produce some damaging winds and very large hail. So just be aware of that situation, what could unfold in this region today. Sterling down to Lamar, you guys could get some storms today. And then maybe a little bit of more action overnight. Area storms could form right at the border of Kansas and Colorado and then drift into Kansas. Kind of the Fort Collins down to Denver, Colorado Springs area. Some storms could form right on top of you, but it looks like they'll form a few hours to your east. But moving into Kansas, starting off around 6 p.m., 7 p.m., storms will begin to move into Colby, down the Garden City, Dodge City later this evening, 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And then we get into about midday. Not midday. I am everywhere. Trust me, I took multiple naps yesterday. I slept like 10 hours last night. I'm definitely just drowsy this morning for sure. Not going to lie with you, but we're kicking through this. So what I meant to say is midnight tonight, we got storms moving through western areas of Kansas. And then we get into the early morning hours tomorrow morning, and we could have some strong to severe thunderstorms, around the Garden City, Dodge City region. And then we keep going here, and a lot of this action will drift down into the panhandle of Oklahoma. It's around 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, so be aware of these storms here. But these storms overnight could produce damaging winds, very large hail. Cannot rule out a tornado either. So, but up here in the north central U.S., a couple areas to watch. One being all these thunderstorms here in lower Michigan, areas of Illinois, Indiana, and even northwest Ohio. Then we'll zoom into those regions here in a second. And then we have to watch these storms in western Nebraska. We could actually get a tornado or two out of this. And we're going to zoom into all these regions. But of course, just taking a broader look at things first. Now let's zoom into Nebraska. So starting off around 1 p.m., we get to 4 p.m., we get to 3 p.m. You see these individual cells here, like this one north of North Platte. These could produce a tornado and all other hazards also. But the main energy begins to get out of northeast Colorado. So this is around 9 p.m. We got a nasty area of storms in southwest Nebraska. Eventually into the late evening hours. This will make it into the central areas of the state, North Platte. Moving to the Broken Bow area, Kearney, Grand Island. And this is 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. It's hit Grand Island, Lincoln, Omaha. And then we'll wake up tomorrow morning. Pretty much throughout the entire overnight hour period, these storms will cruise across the state and be in Omaha or in western Iowa by the time we wake up tomorrow morning. So definitely some gusty winds in this area. If I do take a look at, say, what the HRRR model was saying as far as wind gusts. I meant to pull this up already, but I guess I forgot. Let's see. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. And yeah, it does show some strong wind gusts with some of these storms. So in some of these these pockets of red color here, it's where 50, 60, maybe 65, 70 mile per hour wind gusts can be. in place here with these storms. So just please be aware. Also down here in Kansas too, of the strength of these winds that could occur with some of these storms. So, but looking at say Illinois and Indiana, this does include a portion of Ohio also. We're going to get some storms. Some storms could form around the St. Louis area as early as midday, and we're probably going to have a stormy afternoon across southern Illinois. And then we'll get some storms popping up in northern Indiana around 4, 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon. And some of these just will hit severe limits. You know, some gusty winds, some hail. I don't see much of a tornado threat with these, but storms will continue to be possible in areas of Missouri into St. Louis, and central to southern areas of Illinois. And you see the storms around the Indianapolis area up to Lafayette, Fort Wayne. This is 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 3 p.m. Some storms from Springfield, Champaign to Lafayette. And then that's about it. And then we're probably going to get a stormy afternoon across lower Michigan. This is around 1 p.m. storms from Grand Rapids up to Mount Pleasant, up to Traverse City, very possible. And then we could get some stronger cells that form in sort of the southeastern portion of lower Michigan, Saginaw, Lansing. Sorry, I'm everywhere this morning. Kalamazoo, and you can see how the storms look like. They begin to get more highlighted in color here. So, I mean, Flint, Saginaw, Lansing, it's around 6 p.m. These storms have a possibility of getting to severe limits here. And then 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Look at Detroit. Around 7 to 9 p.m. some storms possible, and then things will taper off as we get into the overnight hours. Now, the western U.S., some storms are possible in areas of southeast Wyoming. We've talked about Colorado, some heavy rain possible also in the eastern sections of New Mexico. Elsewhere, it's not a whole lot to speak on. Some storms could fire tomorrow morning in areas of Wyoming, northeast Wyoming, and then western South Dakota, but it's pretty quiet out west. Temperatures, pretty warm all the way up into all the way up to the northeast. 80s, 90s in certain areas. Higher humidity is why there's heat advisories in place. The valley regions of New York and all of New England will dip all the way into the 90s. We're going to get some warm air surging all the way up into the Ohio Valley. Deep south, it's heating on up. 90s, mid 90s, high humidity. And we do have like a little mini heat wave on the way to start our work week coming up for a good chunk of the eastern U.S. But the western U.S. and central U.S., just normal run-of-the-mill summer heat. Nothing really crazy one way or the other, really. And then the Storm Prediction Center outlook for the days to come. We already have an enhanced risk for areas of Nebraska up in the southern South Dakota. It includes the northeast corner of Colorado and the far northwest corner of Kansas. And we do have a risk of severe weather across areas of western New York, PA, and northeast Ohio. But let's zoom into this region. What's driving the enhanced risk? Well, we have a 2% risk of a tornado in this area tomorrow in the brown. A 5% risk of a tornado in the area of brown for tomorrow. A 2% risk in the green area. I need to wake up. The wind threat, though, is what's driving the enhanced risk area. In that red region, that is a 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles of any given location. The red area is a 15% risk of that. And the black outline region, with the black dashes going in between, which includes all the red 30% area and a good chunk of the yellow area. This is where you have a 10% risk of winds exceeding, 70 to 80 miles per hour. Some hurricane force wind gusts with this. Some very strong winds possible with these storms. And we'll dive deep into this for the next video for you guys. But the hail threat, we do have a risk of significant sized hail. But the yellow area, of course, that is where we have a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then the black outline region, that is where we have a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. And I'll kind of go up through these regions, all the small and some big towns of this area. And so be aware of that, guys. I'm losing some steam. I need to get my energy back. Not down or anything, just slept way too much over the last 24 hours, recuperating from the night of the 4th of July. So there is a risk of flash flooding, but just some 5% risk in certain areas. And then we'll look back at the Storm Prediction Center outlook. There is a couple areas that have a risk of strong to severe storms in the marginal risk areas, but nothing too crazy to write home about. And then the day 3 outlook for flooding doesn't look bad at all. So that's all I got, guys. Let me get off here before I twist up any more words. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Have a wonderful ending to your weekend. And we'll have you another video probably in the morning. God bless, and we'll talk soon.